started recording this already and I lost the video, so I'm starting over. Okay, so I am going to work on this yarn that I'm trying to tidy up while I answer some questions. My friend Megan over at Round the Cauldron tagged me to answer a bunch of witchcraft questions, and I feel like so much, although the channel is Stitch and Witch, so much of what I talk about on here is the Stitch part and less of the Witch part, that I thought this was a really good way to kind of incorporate more of the Witchy into the channel. So I'm going to answer these questions from Megan that actually came from this person here who's new to me, but I just subscribed to her so that I can see her videos as well. And hopefully I don't lose my voice, because this is my second video I'm recording today, because I just recorded my April roundup, and I don't talk a lot because I work from home, so I might lose my voice. But anyway, this is quite the knot. My sister's been dealing with long COVID issues. A friend of mine recently lost her mother to completely different issues, but she had a bunch of yarn that was her mother's that she gave to me. I'm attempting to create like a little kind of yarny care package for my sister out of this yarn, because a lot of it's kind of a tangled mess. So I'm kind of tidying it up and getting it pretty to give to my sister, because no yarn left behind. And also, we appreciate regifting in my family. We like that better than waste. Okay, so the questions. Let's start with the first one. So this list was, I guess, created in like January. So the first question on the list is, do you believe in New Year's resolutions? And I kind of have the same answer that Megan had on her video, which is tagged below. I do believe in New Year's resolutions if they are handled in an intelligent way. I feel like far too often our New Year's resolutions are broad. They're like, I want to travel more, but there's nothing specific to them. I think for any goal or resolution to work, it has to be specific. So yes, I believe in New Year's resolutions, but you have to make a goal that actually works and follow through on it. So that's my answers to 1 and 2. Number 3, what is your favorite color? So my favorite color is green. When I was a child, I, for years, told everybody my favorite color was purple, and then for a while, blue. And I did that because my younger sister, Mara, told me that none of us can have the same favorite color as each other. She was very insistent on this, and my sister Caroline had already chosen green as her favorite color, so I had to choose a different color. So I went with purple for a really long time to make my sister happy, but really it's green. Green is definitely my favorite color. I like all things that are the colors of trees. Does it hold any magical or emotional meaning for you? It does. I feel very connected to trees. I live in Maine. We have more trees per capita than any other state. I have always felt very connected to trees and tree fairies and tree folk and the stories of spiritual beings living in trees and myths of that. Like, that's always been a thing for me. When I die, just bury me under a tree. Let me feed its roots. Do you use substances for meditation or divination? I do not. I used to use wine a lot, or mead in spiritual rituals, but my wife is, I feel like we're crooked. My wife is Native American, and her spiritual teaching is not to use alcohol or substances in relation to your spirituality. So I didn't adopt that intentionally, but because that is her teaching and we do some things ritual-wise together, it kind of moved into being my practice not to. But I used to be with a coven that quite regularly used mead and such in rituals, and just not anymore. What is your favorite part of your practice? I think my favorite part of my spiritual practice is how it so easily intertwines with my everyday life. It's not separate from my life. It is a part of my life. I think that regardless of your religious beliefs, the most grounded and connected people I know do that. Prayer is second nature. It is just a part of what they do in their everyday. It's not something they set aside special, elaborate times for. I'm not saying that like you can't do that as well, and I definitely do that as well. There are times that ritual is more elaborate, but my favorite part about it is the fact that it also can just be a part of my everyday life. What is your least favorite part of your practice? Okay, here's the thing. If I don't like it, how is it going to benefit me spiritually? I'm not saying like there isn't a place for shadow work and the harder psychological sides of developing yourself as a spiritual being. I guess nobody really likes that darker side of stuff. But I don't participate in spiritual practices that I don't see a benefit to. And the things I wouldn't like would be the things that don't benefit me. So I just don't do that. If I don't like it, I'm not doing it. So I don't really have a least favorite part. How do you feel your practice has grown over time? I think that kind of ties in. Like my practice has grown over time in that it has become a part of my everyday life. My spiritual jewelry has become something I wear regularly when I feel the need for it. I've just kind of moved into it all intertwining really well. That's definitely how it's grown over time for me. That has been the most beneficial thing for me. I would not say that that is the most beneficial thing for you. Some people really need and appreciate and rely on that sacred set aside time with the clothes and the candles and all of that. That's just not me. For me, this is how it has grown and how it has benefited me to grow. Is there a show or movie that inspires you? Spiritually? Creatively? All of the above? Yeah, I actually have a bullet journal spread that is just movies and TV shows that inspire me to write, specifically. I would say spiritually, I definitely feel inspired when I watch some of my favorite forms of magical TV. Howl's Moving Castle, Practical Magic. Those kind of things inspire me in that way. But creatively, I think it's a matter of, one of the things that is, I think we take our inspiration when we can get it, and we shouldn't feel guilty for it. Sex and the City inspires me. There's something about watching Carrie write, the combination of watching Carrie write and then also the focus on the fashion, that as a knitwear designer and writer really speaks to me. It really works for me. So Sex and the City is one. I recently watched the Gentleman Jack, and I found that really inspiring. So Gentleman Jack is one. There's a lot of them, but those ones really inspire me a lot. Do you have a familiar? Not anymore. I had a chinchilla who was very much my familiar for a very long time. Prior to that, I had a rabbit named Puck, who was my familiar and my baby boy. I think my dachshund Winterstone has the potential to be a familiar, but she is not yet. Maybe when she grows up. She's only a couple years old now. So no, I do not at the moment have a familiar. I do not know which end of this yarn is the right end. I don't even know if I have an end yet. Would you recommend any YouTube channels? All kinds of them. I would recommend Megan Black's From the Cauldron, or Around the Cauldron, I mean. I'm really enjoying her channel. I've been watching it for quite a while now, and she has some really interesting thoughts. She's thinking hard about things that I really appreciate, that we need to talk about in our community, for sure. So Megan, I don't know, I have a bunch of them. I'll link a few below, because off the top of my head I can't think of them. I have to go scrolling through my page to find them. Oh, Slow Living Jane. Definitely her, if you are into the slow living side of it all. Name something you must do daily for your mental or emotional well-being, or for your practice. Knit and yoga. For those who don't know, in 2020 I had a pretty severe month of, a month of pretty severe sciatica issues, and that was really rough. And in that time, as I was healing, I started doing a daily 10-minute yoga practice with the Yoga with Cassandra YouTube channel. So I guess that's a YouTube channel I'd suggest. I started doing a pretty regular yoga practice with Cassandra, with Cassandra's videos. Highly suggest her videos. I also like Yoga with Adrienne. I know everybody talks about Yoga with Adrienne. I really like her videos, but Yoga with Adrienne, she moves a little bit faster, I feel like. And although I move very quickly most of the time, in my yoga practice, I really like to stay in a position for a while. And Cassandra does more of that. So there's just a difference in their styles that way, depending on which is yours. If you're likely to get into a yoga position and find yourself bored, go with Yoga with Cassandra. But if you like to really settle into a yoga position, no, let me say that again. If you are likely to find yourself in a yoga position and be bored, go with Yoga with Adrienne. If you really like to settle into a position and stay there for a while, go with Yoga with Cassandra. I like both, like I said. There's also Bad Yogi, I think is her channel. I like hers too. She's really funny. She's more of like, if I'm doing yoga while I'm at work and the kids are playing a game and I want something quick, go with Bad Yogi. What is something that started as an obstacle but you now see as a blessing? But you now see as a blessing. Maybe my yoga routine, actually, or just my routines in general. I think like so many of us, and I've talked about this before, but like so many of us, the last 2.5 years or so have really taught me who I am and what I value in a different way than I had known before. And part of that has been developing these routines. I know a lot of people, I've been reading articles lately too about this, a lot of people in the first year of the pandemic really lost their routines, sleeping odd hours, not really keeping themselves on any sort of schedule because they suddenly didn't have to. And I don't know if I avoided that because, I honestly don't know if I avoided that because I'm kind of used to making my own schedule because of the kind of work I do, or if I avoided that because of my animals. having 3 dogs now. At the beginning of the pandemic I had 1, but 3 dogs now and 4 cats, and them being on a routine really keeps you on a routine, because if your cats know that every night at 7 o'clock you do treats, they're not going to let you miss that. And I'm trying to see what colors I need too as I do this to make sure that I like kind of keep a few of these for myself, but most of them are going to my sister. But if your dogs know, or your cats know that they need that treat, they expect that routine. It keeps you on a routine. But having that routine, I feel like, has really benefited my mental health through this entire thing. And adding in things like a yoga routine, a reading routine where now I read in the mornings before I get out of bed. On days I don't have to get up early, I read in the mornings. That has really helped me a lot. So I guess that would be my thing, is kind of routine. I think before I saw things I had to do routinely as an obstacle, because it was always to get through that thing so that I could do the thing I wanted to do. Now it's kind of, I see it as a blessing, and that it's helped me stay grounded through this whole thing. Which do you prefer, YouTube, Facebook, Instagram, or TikTok? Okay, I'm a social media junkie, so all of the above. It really depends on my mood. For instance, for the last 48 hours, I have not been on Facebook or Twitter. I signed out for a couple of days to give myself a break. I do that periodically. YouTube and TikTok to me serve 2 very different purposes. So yeah, it just depends on what I need from them. As much as I don't like Facebook, it's also the app I find the hardest to say goodbye to. It's the app I find that the hardest to walk away from. So yeah, that's definitely a thing with me and Facebook. I think that's because Facebook, the majority of the people I know on Facebook are people I know in real life, and it's more like seeing my friends, whereas on other apps it may be strangers. So that probably makes a difference, but yeah, really I'm just a social media junkie and I like them all for different purposes. Okay, that's this one. Because it's creative or not. Okay. what do you feel is missing from our witchy community? I was just discussing this recently with my friends Romy and Amanda. I feel what's missing from our witchy community is action. I feel that we are a small population. We are a small percentage of the world's population, and yet we do make headlines. People like to talk about us, and all too often when we make headlines, it's not for good things, right? It's a bunch of witches have decided to hex Donald Trump. That's what we make headlines for. I feel like we couldn't be making those headlines because we are benefiting the world. I think that the pagan community could learn from, and I know there's some overlap in these two communities, but the pagan community could learn from the Church of Satan and these other churches that are actively working to make the world a better place, organize ourselves. And maybe this is the union organizer in me, but I feel like we could organize ourselves and be making progress, helping to heal the world, helping to end homelessness, helping to end world hunger. Like, we could be doing these things and end food insecurity and be anti-racist. We could be actively participating in these things as a group if we could get out of our own way. I think we spend a lot of time debating what's a pagan and what's a Wiccan and who's allowed, and gatekeeping each other, and you're not good enough, and oh my god, we don't claim that guy because he's being way too witchy in public. And we just spend so much time judging each other, and we could be spending that time making the world better, and we could be organizing ourselves into an active collective and get past our differences and just be a cohesive group and really benefit the world. How much space do you use for supplies and spell work? Not a lot. I have a tiny little stand over here to my right, which I'll put a picture of, that has a sand garden, a couple of tarot decks, an incense burner, a couple incense burners, a candle. Yeah, not a lot. There's a trunk underneath it that holds some other supplies, but I don't use a lot of space for that stuff. So much of my witchy stuff happens in my kitchen. My most commonly used cauldron, as I did on a TikTok a while back, my most commonly used cauldron is actually a really tiny crock pot that I use for that kind of thing. So it kind of all mixes into my everyday world stuff. How many altars do you have in your home? I have one, and then my spouse has one, so two dedicated altar spaces. What's your favorite Sabbath? I think it's pretty safe to say that's Samhain. I was not allowed to celebrate Halloween when I was a child, and I have fully embraced it as an adult. So yeah, Samhain. Do you prefer tarot, runes, oracle, or pendulum? Tarot, all the way. There's something about the story and the art of a tarot deck that has spoken to me since I was a teenager. I couldn't have an actual tarot deck living with my parents, so I took a deck of playing cards and learned how to do the same kind of thing with playing cards as a teen. And then later, when I moved out of their house, I was about 18. It was honestly like months after I moved out that I got my first tarot deck. It's always been tarot for me. Are you out of the broom closet? I am. I'm out of all closets. I don't like closets. I like closets to hold my things. I don't like closets to hold my labels. Okay, the last question is who are you going to tag in this video? And I'm not going to because I'm too new to YouTube, and as far as the witchy side goes, to know who to tag. So, you know, if you have a witchy themed YouTube channel and you come across this video and you want to answer these questions, this is your official invitation to answer these questions. You are tagged. I cannot get this knot out. Anyway, that's everything for today. Join me over on Patreon. You can find all my links below as far as Patreon, Stitch and Witch, etc. Follow me on Instagram. Like and subscribe, do all those things. If you want more witchy videos from me, I really do want to do more witchy videos. I found myself lacking in ideas. So if you have ideas or questions you'd like to see me answer or topics you'd like to see covered, please, this is the video to leave that comment on and let me know, because I'd love more ideas for that. I just don't have a lot of them. For whatever reason, that's just been more difficult for me to come up with than I'd like. So, tell me what you want to see. All right, have a great day. Go make something fun.